First they came for our idols. Now they came for Space Jam.
It's a shame that LeBron James would sell it to advertising like this.
I do like how quickly the Lola Bunny conversation consumed the barely there controversy about Pepe Le Pew.
Also, Pepe Le Pew was like mad problematic. Like actually, in his original,
that was his whole thing.
Original form. His whole thing was, I'm gonna take women against their will and make them.
And I mean, Space Jam 2. Space Jam is just branding, and Pepe's not good for the brand. That's all it is.
Gotta go. Plus, he smells bad. That's what I hear.
Warner Bros. Has like 6 films that are just parading all the IPs they have. They're the most insecure of the major film studios.
There's actually a scene in the movie where they fly through, in Marvin the Martian spaceship, they fly through all the different worlds, like in this fucking algorithm galaxy. And it's like Game of Thrones world, and it's like DC universe or whatever. And it's Toon World, and it's all the worlds meshed into each other. So
you saw this already? You saw it?
Yeah, he did. And I think the most depressing thing was when I was just looking at the ROM page, aside from the comment box, which is always the most depressing thing about looking at any ROM page, was when I saw that Rick and Morty have a cameo.
Yeah, they did. They throw the Tasmanian Devil against the spaceship, and they say he's your problem now, and that's the cameo.
Oh, irony! Funny irony.
Yeah.
Welcome to Living Off Borrowed Time podcast, part of the Space Jam universe.
I'm gonna go meet Daffy.
I have one more Space Jam 2 take, a film which I have not seen, and then we can get down to business. I've heard that characters from Ken Russell's The Devils, which is a nunsploitation film that Warner Brothers technically owns, but hasn't put on streaming because it's fairly X-rated. The nuns from that movie are in the Space Jam 2 audience, despite Warner Bros. Paying no mind to this film over the past 50 years.
That is a real fact. They're also joined by other audience members such as King Kong, who gets really mad that when someone on the other team talks shit about him, even though he's in the stands. It's a real thing. Also, Don Cheadle is the villain, and the villain is an algorithm.
I knew the Droogs from Clockwork Orange were less problematic than Pepe Le Pew.
Oh.
Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock tick faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock tick faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster.
Oh, man. All right. Yeah, this is a Living Off Borrowed Time podcast that is mostly about serious cinematic discourse and occasionally about hip-hop. We're joined this week by our good cinematic friends, Zach and Hector. Zach and Hector, please say hi.
Hi.
What's up? This is Zackauz. Happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Hector. Thank you for having me.
So we actually have been doing something during the pandemic in order to foster community that was thought of by our good friend Hector here, and that I tried to colonize in the spirit of America and say it was my idea, but it was actually his idea. And Hector, would you please explain for the people what we came up with in the Cameron server?
Yeah. So we watch movies every Saturday.
Oh, no, I was just going to say the concept, and then we're going to kind of... I think what we're going to do is, like, I guess just explain that, like, we're going to do a movie plan. Yeah, I guess I'd fuck this up. I managed to even fuck up the intro when I don't fuck up the intro.
It's amazing the amount of intros that we have to...
I got it. If you like genre films of questionable esteem and the occasional new Hollywood classic, almost every Saturday night, we congregate in the Discord group chat to watch a strange film of some sort. Like I said, normally pretty disreputable, as voted by chat members. And that can be you if you're interested. You can have a voice on which films we watch in our community chats and are then routed into the podcasts to generate endless content.
And our producer always tries to suggest a Godzilla film and it never wins.
Yes, right. Godzilla seriously got bodied by Shakma.
also by The Naked Gun. And
I wanted to actually, I sort of have a somewhat serious point about the what I realized about kind of this movie night series that we've sort of been doing. I feel like, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like there are like stages in, and this is an extremely pretentious term, but there are stages in being like a cinephile or whatever you call it, where it's, you start out and you watch like all the ones you're supposed to watch, and then you branch out and you just don't watch Western movies and et cetera, et cetera. And at some point you hit a stage where it's like, I just want to watch B movies or exploitation movies or, weird sci-fi and horror that no one's really seen in 20 years. There's like that sort of stage, and I feel like this, for the most part, movie night represents that stage where we're just, most people we love movies. We enjoy watching many of them. We like, some of the classics, but sometimes you just got to watch a great B movie or a great horror movie where a monkey kills a bunch of people in a hospital. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it took long enough to do it, but when he did, it was great.
I mean, they only had one setting, so they really had to spread it out.
I want to say something about, like, when we started doing it, I was doing the same thing before with, like, a group of my friends, of my IRL friends, I guess. And we had like this really bizarre experience of watching a silent film, which is He Who Gets Slapped, which I think is directed by Sjostrom, and I think Lon Chaney is the star of it. And we all just had like a breakdown watching all that, sort of complaining about our lives and watching this clown get owned over and over by his boss and his wife, and then it was just extremely cathartic. So doing that over the internet was sort of really special. So when we sort of couldn't do that anymore with my group of friends, I thought it was a good idea to do it on the server, and it's worked, I think.
I would agree. And so how do we want to do this? We want to do that. I guess it would probably be best to do this chronologically, because I think we can pretty much all agree on what the best one is, but I think coming up with an order would be a little hard, especially because all of us haven't seen all of them. Some of us have had to dip out of certain weeks, so maybe we should just go chronologically.
Yeah, sure. I have them all listed.
Yeah, I mean, Hector's come up with a very useful list on RYM, so we can consult that and start from the beginning here with the Space Leprechaun, which unfortunately I did not have time to see. I was not here for the first week, but I'm sure it was a very quality film that had a lot to offer. So you guys can speak on the Space Leprechaun.
Hell yes, Leprechaun 4 in space.
Of 6. I believe there were 6 Leprechaun movies. Or he did go into the hood at some point. I do know that.
Yeah, there was, I think, 4 Leprechauns, 2 Leprechauns in the Hood, and then a remake in 2015.
After he conquered space, he was able to conquer the hood.
Yeah.
There were 6 official Leprechaun movies, and then the freaking Sci-Fi Channel bought the IP, which I feel like the early 2000s were really the last time these sort of direct-to-DVD horror comedies like Leprechaun made contextual sense, whereas the Sci-Fi Channel is who does these really try-hard Sharknado films. I'm incredibly worried that we're going to get a
quick
Jerry
note
Springer cameo in Leprechaun versus Megalodon.
A quick note on that, by the way. Fuck Sharknado. Fuck all that try-hard shit where it's fake bad. I hate that shit. Like, Snakes on a Plane was okay, but it really set a bad precedent, I think, where it's just...
That was the turning point.
That was a tipping point. And
as always, blame the internet.
Bad, man. Like, it's just not cool. I don't like it. And it doesn't work. It's too ironic. It does not work.
Yeah, I mean, Leprechaun sincerely wants to entertain, whereas all you get out of Sharknado is the same Asylum tier CGI and cameos from Jerry Springer and Anthony Weiner.
And don't pay Anthony Weiner to do anything. Least of all, be a politician, but also to be in your movie. Like, fuck that. Yeah, I just feel like that's just really false. Like, Trauma stuff Trauma works. Snakes on a Plane doesn't. I shouldn't have to explain to you why. I mean, Snakes on a Plane works too. Like, Snakes on a Plane worked as a one-off, but Sharknado doesn't, and it's just feels false to me. I don't know.
Sci-Fi Channel is definitely.
Space, I feel like probably was really cool. I didn't see it, but it sounds like the Leprechaun was in space. He probably wanted his gold again.
I don't know if "cool" is the word. But...
I mean, it was probably trash, but I mean, I'm sure it had its moments.
But
really bad CGI.
Credit where it's due. Leprechaun managed to beat Jason Voorhees in the space race by 4 years on probably a 15th of the budget.
I mean, yeah, shout out to Leprechaun for beating Jason Voorhees to space. And the Jason in Space movie sucked.
Yeah, even if it is blessed to have a David Cronenberg acting role as Perv Doctor. Or was it Perv Professor? It was something Perv. It was either Perv Doctor or Professor. But either way, that's pretty much the lone saving grace of this borderline fan film that closes out the Jason franchise.
Yeah, that was the last Jason movie? Was Jason X? Was it Jason X or was it Jason versus Freddy was the last one?
Yeah, that was... I mean, honestly, Jason Goes to Hell right before Jason X was kind of the last one before it entered sort of IP purgatory. And they did the fucking 2009 remake type thing.
Yeah, I didn't count. Whatever the fuck, man.
I can't believe that movie has a Michael Bay production credit and it's that boring.
I did not know that. That tracks, though. That tracks.
Yeah, I unfortunately have not seen the Leprechaun franchise, but I did want to say that I'm as a film poster aficionado of sorts. This is definitely one of the better ones that we're dealing with today on the show. I love the shade of green that the 4 is in, the lightning coming out of the fingers. My guy looking like he's looking like if Emperor Palpatine went to Notre Dame.
And even the strange decision to name it Leprechaun 4 in space.
Yeah, as an English major, just the colon placement alone
would have done the job. Maybe it's to remind people that they have to see Leprechaun 1 through 3 to understand Leprechaun in space in its totality.
Also, there's a really great tagline on this: one small step for man, one giant leap of terror.
I did like a lot.
The marketing team came correct with that one.
I like that this basically had like no continuity. Like it's just a movie on its own. Especially now where everything has to be like part of a cinematic universe. This was such a breath of fresh air, I guess.
I would not put it past.
Season of the Witch fucking bag on that Halloween season of the Witch.
Yeah, they never explain how Leprechaun got to space. He's just there.
I mean, to be fair, Leprechaun can kind of just do whatever he wants. I feel like if a Leprechaun movie had $100 million budget, I think the creative team would be paralyzed, because even in this $3 million film, Leprechaun has the power to teleport to someone's crotch mid-coitus to kill them for having sex, cut his fingers off and grow them back Freddy Krueger style, change in size massively, use...
And isn't that like the biggest crippling thing about a leprechaun is that he's tiny? Like, he's like supposed to be like a little person, right? Like, isn't that like one of the biggest things, no pun intended, about a leprechaun? Like, a biggest detriment is that
he got over
small.
He got over that minor setback.
Huge.
And
he gets like this ray, which makes him giant, and then the first thing he does is he takes a look down his trousers, and then he says, "Oh," he makes like a pun about his dick being gigantic as well.
I'm glad that we get some good dick puns in this. Is there a scene where there's an astronaut in his spacesuit, and then you just see the spacesuit filled with blood?
I'm trying to recall. It has all the other space horror cliches.
Also, another thing I remember that actually I think Zach commented on it was that this is like a real Starship Troopers vibe. Like all the subplot with the soldiers is like very anti-military, I guess, for what this is. And it actually predates Starship Troopers, so I think Verhoeven got some cues from this.
And Leprechaun.
I mean, the original Starship Troopers book is jingoistic trash.
Oh, no, yeah.
So it makes sense that Verhoeven would take more inspiration from Leprechaun 4.
Yeah, Hunt was a huge fascist, so, like, I'm sure he hated the actual... if he was alive, probably hated Starship Troopers, so... because that was a parody of all that.
Yeah. Perfect film, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Movie.
Starship Troopers 5-star film. I think I have it at a 4. It's actually a 5. I need to up that.
It's like that a lot. I mean, no spoilers, but I have Knockoff at a 3.5 out of 5 because of Rob Schneider. But functionally, if you can ignore that, it's a perfect film.
We're going to shit on Rob Schneider a whole lot.
Yeah. That's a good assessment.
Space Leprechaun, I'm glad his dick is really big.
Yeah.
I'd be bigger than Shakma's.
Let's not go crazy about this. You know, I mean, Shakma's got a pretty big dick. So. I can't imagine.
I'm glad this is this is great content.
Definitely deserves to be premium content.
Radio we've ever recorded.
Yeah. I remember Hector was particularly taken with a certain thespian in the film. The man behind the curtain, who's this android captain who sounds like to be an actor in Aguirre, The Wrath of God.
Did he? Did he also want to fuck his sister like in The Wrath of God? This is how he rules the world. This is how he wins.
This is our first, new, fresh podcast on streaming, by the way. This is going to really, draw in the new audience.
Set the tone.
Fucking Leprechaun dick versus Shakma dick. And this is great. Great movie, guys.
It was right there. It was a layup.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the thespian android didn't get that much backstory.
Yeah, Patrick, you knew it was going to go like this when we opened the podcast up with a discussion of Lola Bunny controversy.
Well, actually, that would be something Wyatt was into. Sorry, Wyatt.
Wow, you're just going to kink shame Wyatt on the podcast.
A little bit throwback from the Lil Peep episode.
Yeah, it was a great callback. You know, you insulted the Amy Rose.
Right. Yeah.
Who
Apparently, I was not up on my female hedgehog lore. So. Oh my God, we're not going to get any new listeners. Not a single fucking one.
No, not after
listeners that we gained.
Yeah. Not after this one. Do we want to?
But we're going to gain some listeners of the film Arcade from 1993, though. Our second film.
Absolutely.
A cinematic classic.
This is a Zach pick, so you should. Why did you pick Arcade?
I don't fully know how to explain this one, but I read some backstory that clarifies a bit more of how this film came to be. So Arcade was a Full Moon Entertainment, the studio that does shit like Evil Bong and all direct-to-DVD stuff, and Paramount co-production. And I don't know if it was once meant for theaters, but it's ostensibly an Elm Street cash-in plus 90s technological horror. And its ambitions may have been that simple, but as a final product, it is one of the strangest films I've ever seen.
This is some disjointed ass shit, dude. This is a really, it's great, but it is just, it's... I love this movie. I don't know, who was the audience for this?
I know. It's, they had to market it as a horror film. And tonally, the film even sort of plays that way with how horrified the teenagers behave. But they really overplay the Tron CG rather than any of the Elm Street stuff. So, it's
so we have to discuss, first of all, Zach was nice enough to find the OG trailer for this. And they really went hard on the Tron before the point where they were told by the lawyers, you can't do that.
Yeah, I honestly, if you showed me some of that light cycle footage from the Arcade trailer just as is, I would probably infer that it was a snippet from Tron. I mean,
what they ended up with was a third act that looked like a 3DO tried to shit out the third act of What Dreams May Come.
There's this. So, it's for those that aren't aware, Arcade is about a virtual reality arcade game called Arcade.
As games are called.
That is infused with some of the brain cells of a traumatized dead child, and therefore imprisons teenagers who play the game and don't win. So, it passes itself off as an arcade game, which is naturally computer animated. And while it delivers abstract visualizer animations in spades, there's a part as they're navigating arcade level by level that, I don't know, maybe this is jumping ahead too early. But there's a part where they had to take out the CG to the lawsuit to the point that it's not even computer animation anymore. It's this kind of deserty location with a series of just completely fried by different visual filters to try to make it computer animated.
There's also one shot they keep going back to whenever right before the kids get taken into arcade that looks just like a Windows 95 screensaver.
I mean, when I first watched this, as soon as the opening credits came in, looking like a karaoke video, I knew that I was in for something special.
Also, shout out to child actor Seth Green for picking up the bag for showing up for 10 minutes with the world's dumbest haircut.
Yeah, Seth Green, who is kind of in it in this.
Yeah, he's in it for like 5 minutes, leaning up against the wall, and like I don't even think Arcade takes him, does they? Like I don't even think he gets sucked into Arcade, does he?
I think he dies off screen.
SMH. Yeah, it's not the star-making performance from Seth Green that Idle Hands is, but he's there. I was surprised to see a peak Seth Green movie go direct to DVD, but I'm guessing maybe this film was enough of a production disaster that was its natural destination.
And also it has I don't know. I mean, this will play to noted chatter Ryan more than anybody, but Q from Star Trek: The Next Generation plays the one scientist who tries to warn everybody about Arcade.
In a lab coat, computer scientist in a lab coat.
As all scientists are in lab coats.
Yeah, I do not remember this movie at all.
It is a bit paralyzing. It's like...
Perhaps Hector was sucked into Arcade.
Perhaps.
It truly, inadvertently, or maybe vertently, immerses you into this sort of cyber dreamscape. So it might have actually hit closer to the target than it would have if they were able to use the finished CGI.
I mean, I think this movie is like prime 90s trash. It's about 90 minutes. It has a bunch of bad child acting. It has a bunch of really terrible CGI. It has a bunch of tedious exposition scenes, but it's a lot of fun in that sort of way, I think. This was the first movie I saw after movie night. It was a ton of fun shitting on this. It's like, I recommend it if you're into that sort of thing. It's like a fucking Sega CD game came to life, I think.
Yeah. Like
a bunch of cutscenes from a fucking digital picture Sega CD FMV game.
It has that strange blue hazy light that I always connect with FMVs.
Yeah.
And I feel like compared to other schlock films we've watched, Albert Pune, the director of this, really hits the accelerator in terms of exposition.
Oh yeah, the exposition of this is like it.
The scene where she goes to like her friend's house and she's like, "Where's the guy who got sucked into the game?" And they're like, "What does it matter? He's sick. Like, who cares?" And he's been sick for a week. Like, what?
I mean, it's just like what happened to your mother. Don't you know what happened to your mother? And
yeah, film is truly airtight, given that the only backstory the protagonist really has is that her mother killed herself.
Oh yeah, we have the very first scene. Yeah, like we get that scene that's like supposed to be jarring, and then they call back to it later with a bunch of clumsy ass exposition. It's great,
and it also pans out. I feel like maybe we aren't totally selling this film. I think it has to be seen to be believed. But that bit of backstory even pans out in this strangely ethereal, albeit borderline Elm Street plagiarizing sequence that is pretty much the only horror section in the film, though it's still fairly silly.
Oh yeah, the thing about it is Arcade supposed to be scary because he's not scary. Like that's he's not scary.
I have to assume that it was meant to be, given that the arcade that Arcade sits inside of is called Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, and also shout out to the weird chrome baby pictures that are in the lab where they made Arcade that are not explained at all. Those are the scariest things in the film.
Oh yeah, it has a B-movie hallmark, which is just like having 2 or 3 stock photos hung up everywhere.
Yeah, truly the only thing I remember about this movie is the Chrome Baby.
I mean, the Chrome Baby was immortalized in our group chat.
It is. I was berated into making it an emoji, and now it's an emoji. So there you go, guys.
Yeah, in conclusion, Arcade, must see. It's like...
in conclusion, Arcade has 4 stars. Yeah, fuck you if you don't like Arcade.
It's like one of Robert Rodriguez's green screen experiments, but 15 years earlier, and much more charming. Much more charming.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good point. It does kind of feel like a Robert has a sort of kind of like Robert Rodriguez exercise feel.
It's Spy Kids 3D as Nightmare on Elm Street. If that does something for you, go see it.
Also,
having never seen a Spy Kids film, that feels strangely accurate.
Yeah.
Spy Kids
3D cinematic masterpiece, cinematic achievement.
I mean, as far as Rodriguez stuff goes, the characters don't talk much.
That's good.
A lot of
the Robert Rodriguez films I've seen. That's good.
And there's a huge quantity of green screen trickery, so it's probably one of his better films.
There's I forget which Spy Kids one that I didn't mind. They all run together, but I think it was the second one or I don't know, one of the first two. I wasn't actually that bad.
The first one has the thumb monsters.
Oh, yeah.
Second one, I don't really remember. I think Selena Gomez was in it.
Yeah, maybe.
And then the 3D one has Mike Judge.
Yes.
And video game sequences that don't really understand how video games work.
The real Robert Rodriguez masterpiece is Shark Boy and Lava Girl. That's the one. That is I saw that movie when I was really young in the theater in 3D. I'll just let you know. There was a shark.
Speaking of movies, speaking of films, who understand how video games work, there is Brainscan, which is definitely how video games work.
Brainscan, also known as the COVID vaccine of movies. So, yeah.
What?
We all got microchipped watching Brainscan.
I must insist you explain how the fuck that works.
Someone made a microchip joke, and I made that joke during movie night. So now I'm just gonna stick with it. So you didn't hear it.
I had a joke so bad it was like fucking. I said it was a Ryan joke, and then Ryan didn't even get the reference. So I'm not even gonna make it on the podcast. That's how bad the joke I was gonna make was. So shout out to Ryan. He doesn't even listen to the podcast, so he won't even get that I didn't even make it.
Straight up crickets going on.
Exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't even make a fucking joke.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Trickster. Respect.
Oh well, yeah, we'll touch on Trickster.
Man. Shout Trickster.
I will say, Pat, that when we were watching the movie, you boiled down the moral of Brainscan very concisely, which is that boys will play Brainscan but won't scan for some brain.
That's actually a call forward to our next episode where I will make an even hackier joke.
Well, especially that really hits home with the main character who, wants to scan for some brain, but ultimately can't, bring himself to do it. Because the object of his interest will bring him down in life, so...
Yeah, so...
As all women do, right? That's the whole point.
Well, I mean, and just talking about this as a film real quick, this makes a critical mistake for a horror movie. It talks too fucking much.
I mean, yeah. So director John Flynn did some new Hollywood films in the 70s, written by Paul Schrader.
Which is insane, by the way, if you ever watched it. Yeah. Think about that.
And this is most certainly a film where the director is at war with its premise. Because the one part of the film I can say was slightly commendable is the first kill inside the brain scan.
Yeah, that's a cool kill. That's
first person, marginally tense, has this Manhunter style lighting. It's drawn out enough that almost make you forget you're watching a film about a killer video game. And then Trickster shows up, and any pretense of being a arty slasher film immediately gets kicked out of the window.
I mean, I think a big problem this film has is it can't decide whether it wants to be trash or a deconstruction of trash, or it's just eventually it's boring. I remember at the end of it, I'm like, wow, this was nearly 2 hours long. And I think Zach said this was 90 minutes long.
It was 100, which is truly a bad sign for this type of film.
Well, I mean, yeah, it shouldn't be 100. It should be 90 on the dot. Something like this should be 90 on the dot. This shit sucked. This is bad. I think this is probably, I'm going to scroll up, but I think this is probably the worst we watched for movie night that I saw.
Yeah.
This is the worst we watched that I saw for movie night.
It is strangely comatose for being a horror film that is soundtracked by White Zombie and the Butthole Surfers.
Yeah, I didn't even really get Butthole Surfers off this. I did track some Rob Zombie in here, but I did not even get the Butthole Surfers out of this. I did not get Gibby Haynes out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is very talky, and it's very talky in a way where it only takes you a few minutes to realize the main character is not someone you want to hear talk. So it kind of just goes all downhill from there. I mean, there are callbacks to other horror, films or suspense films, but they're not really. I wouldn't say they're tastefully executed.
Yeah, you can just tell. It's one of those films that radiates contempt from the director for the production that is manifesting right before his eyes.
Yeah, the whole detective subplot is just useless.
I'll leave with one quote from Mr. John Flynn, director of Brainscan, that I think really clarifies why the film doesn't work. The main interest for me was the trickster character, a cadaverous Alice Cooper-like entity who materializes from a CD-ROM computer game. The trickster was the core of the movie and what attracted me to the script. We found the stage actor T. Ryder Smith to play the trickster, and he was extraordinary. Eddie Furlong was a 15-year-old kid who couldn't act. You had to slap him awake every morning. I don't want to get into knocking people, but I was not a big Eddie Furlong fan. Which is a problem because Furlong's the protagonist.
Right. I was just saying, can we have a Furlong conversation here, because he's been. It's interesting, like watching him in other things, because I was like, his career after 1999 is not a career.
I would say his career after like 1991 is not a career.
Yeah, it was pretty. Well, there was some stuff there. I mean, I haven't seen it, but there's some stuff where it's like he was at least in things.
All he's got right now is the Terminator IP, which the last 3 to 4 films have been widely panned.
Right, and I don't even think he's been in them. So
no, I thought he was in. Looking at his Wikipedia page, I thought he was in Terminator: Dark Fate, but it was just facial motion capture.
And one of your best they can say about you is that you weren't in Terminator: Dark Fate. That's bad.
He was in Uwe Boll's Assault on Wall Street, though.
He was also in Uwe Boll's Attack on Darfur.
What the fuck is that?
I actually really like Furlong in T2, which is probably
T2 is like I will not hear words against T2.
That's a different story, only because I realize that I actually like Furlong more than the other characters in rewatches. But yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Can't say I don't remember him much in many other movies.
I mean, granted that given that Furlong was at least in Terminator 2. And John Flynn brought us Brainscan. I'm inclined to think the director might be the one at fault.
And I just want to move on, I guess.
Closed casket for me.
So, Dead or Alive was picked by Ryan because I think he was trying to troll us and pick the boob movie on a video game because that's what he thought it was, and he didn't have to watch it.
I accused him of that, but he denied it. But I'm adamant that that's what he did.
But it was actually the Takashi Miike film, which was an ironic deconstruction of action films. And this is mid for like 90%. Then it's fucking amazing.
That's the thing about Takashi Miike. More than most directors.
Am I pronouncing that wrong, by the way? I thought it was Miike.
No, it's Miike.
My bad. The thing with Takashi Miike is you really have to trust the process. Because his films can be kind of meandering, except for Itchy the Killer, which is full throttle, and Audition, which is just perfect. It's the perfect match of his style of filmmaking and the story it's telling. But a lot of his films are very meandering and you could say indulgent, but you're guaranteed at least 2 or 3 moments that elevate it.
I will say that even in its meandering moments, there were beautiful shots. Like, you could tell this was shot by a professional. It just felt like I was being jerked around a bit for a while. I'm just like, where's this going? Where's this going? And then in the very ending, I'm like, okay, y'all, you did your thing. Like, this was fucking awesome. Like, yeah. So the payoff was worth the journey in this case. So it was cool. Like, ultimately, I don't know if that was supposed to be some sort of like metatextual point. Like, the point might have eluded me on this one. It might have been superficial, but on a superficial level, it worked for me.
Yeah, with Takashi Miike, he's all over the place in that regard. Some of his stuff is pretty profound in its grotesque way, and then some of it's just fooling around, which is not a bad thing.
I might be out of my depth in this discussion, but where does Miike, in regards to Kitano, like, they were contemporaries, and I feel like they're kind of doing the same thing. Beat Kitano.
Miike does everything basically. Like, I didn't watch this movie, but one of the things I know about it is that it came out 6 weeks after Audition, and 2 other Miike movies came out in between those.
Yeah,
he's directed like 90 movies.
Yeah, he's up to. Yeah, I think he's like 100 and something.
He's like Viper of movies.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of his stuff, except he doesn't repeat material quite so overtly. You could argue about Miike's gangster films that there's some repetition, but he does not slow down his films and reuse footage like Viper.
I'm waiting until
episode coming soon.
Yeah, when I already have a Viper a guest for the Viper episode lined up. When we do that, when I'm anticipating how it gets sampled onto a Viper song. I want to hear Viper clowning like my dumbass voice or something. Like, make a joke about
actually be sampled on a Viper track. That'll be exciting.
Yeah, let's do it. Like a Viper track that like 200 people will hear ever.
Living off Viper time.
Oh, I actually don't know. He has these videos where it's just one of his vocals mashed up with like a Yellow Magic Orchestra song or something, and I'm not sure if he makes all these mashups or if he just kind of gives his raw tracks to the public.
Well, we've discussed this in the chat recently, talking about doing the Viper episode, and we think that it's just some guy on 4chan that he's kind of given like free reign, like he's in contact with them, and like he's in, that it's got his approval, but he has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to ask Viper twice to outsource work.
That he's getting paid off is all he cares about. Like,
right.
He gets a slice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But anyway, back to Miike, who is almost the film game Viper.
The only podcast where you will get a discussion that transitions directly from Takashi Miike to Viper.
I'd say that Audition and Gozu are upper tier Miike, though I think some people find Gozu to be a bit of empty shock value. It's very immersed in masculine sexuality, but some people think it's juvenile trolling, and some people think it's more than that.
I guess that's kind of common with Miike. I think Ichi the Killer can definitely like be read the same way. But like either way, as an stylist, he's very good at what he does. Even in the sort of major, he remade Harakiri and 13 Assassins, and those are movies that are very like polished. But even then, you can tell like it's it's an auteur, I guess, that's directing those. Yeah. And the other thing that about Dead or Alive that I want to talk about is that the main guy is Sho Aikawa, who is like a big time actor, I guess, or who starred in a lot of these movies during the late 90s, early 2000s. I think he's the star of Gozu as well. I'm not sure. but he's the lead in Eyes of the Spider, which is one of the best movies from that period in Japan, which is also like a deconstruction of gangster movies, mob movies, Yakuza movies.
Well, I think it's interesting that we picked this, and then later we would get the John Woo Hard Boiled, which is kind of what set the cliches that Miike would be deconstructing. Sort of.
Although that film's still the high water mark.
Oh no, yeah, like
it's definitely
that's my favorite film that we did in this entire thing. Like I love that fucking.
Hard Boiled is not a film you can tee off on.
As well, so.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Miike, I've actually only seen Audition, which was excellent, but I have to.
Audition really has nothing to do with any of this.
No, it does not. But I was concluding the Miike discussion before you tried to transition. So, yeah. It's a great film.
Just to close out, I think 13 Assassins, which Hector mentioned before, which is a quite handsomely made picture, was kind of his last major profile film. He's done a lot of mercenary work. Like I've heard Terraformers, which was some adaptation he did, was like pretty apathetic work from him. But he's 100 films going strong, and he's still guaranteed at least a few films per decade that are quite interesting.
100 films is just fucking nuts work ethic. I got we're a podcast. We respect Gucci. We respect Currency. Like, we respect the work ethic here. We respect Viper. So, shout out to Miike for just doing his goddamn thing. But, yeah. So, moving on, though. Rest in peace, DMX and Cradle to the Grave. I was not here for this one, but y'all were. And I'm sure this was a good maybe film. I don't know.
Cradle to the Grave might just be me, in which case I'm going to have to speed through it. I don't know if Hector or Optimal has watched it.
I did not see it. That was one of the few I missed.
Yeah, I watched it. I've actually watched this
twice, right?
Like a dozen times. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a personal engagement at the time of this movie. I was not here for it. I wanted to be because the night we did this movie was the night that DMX passed. So again, rest in peace, Earl. But So I don't know. Like, this was in the period where DMX was doing these type of movies.
Yeah, this one, Exit Wounds and Romeo Must Die, were all from the same director. So I'm assuming this was some lucrative partnership. I can now clarify that by default, I haven't seen Romeo Must Die.
Really? That has one really cool action scene where they do a football game. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I don't remember anything from it.
But by default, Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet can only be the second best.
Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet is a dog turd.
Yeah. So
just in general.
Thankfully, it is by no longer being the only Romeo and Juliet adaptation set in California that I'm aware of. It can be dethroned by Romeo Must Die, which I can assure you, having only seen the Baz Luhrmann one, Romeo Must Die is the better movie.
In my best J. Cole voice, the only Romeo we acknowledge is Romeo Must Die.
Bars.
Yeah. So, Cradle to the Grave is mostly fairly rote. I thought the action scenes were fairly pedestrian, very quickly cut. You get your Anthony Anderson comic relief. Get a lot of racism and homophobia.
Always good.
As part of the comic relief. One thing that I did admire about it is I forget what sort of serum, I don't know, maybe Hector can fill in the blanks on this one, given that he's seen it almost a dozen times. I forget what serum they're fighting over.
COVID vaccine.
I think it's like nuclear bombs or something.
Yeah, okay. But that ending, when one of the enemies sort of melts from the nuclear power, and it's this ridiculous deep-fried skeleton computer animation. I feel like that's not the type of payoff that they would drop into a mainstream action film anymore. There's much more pretense of being grounded.
That sounds like some Dragon Ball Z shit. Although no one ever died in Dragon Ball Z when I watched it. I didn't really watch it, but it was just like 70 episodes of people talking about dying and never dying.
I think
we're not getting into any discussion of Dragon Ball Z, by the way. I'm just saying that's never. But anyway, it just seemed like that was some sort of anime shit, is what I'm saying. That seemed like cartoon shit from what you're describing. I get what you're saying, but
yeah, and it's not something. I mean, granted, part of it was how sort of rudimentary the computer animation was back then, but they don't really drop something that silly into an action vehicle anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's just straight tedium, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Skyscraper.
Right.
This has I think the needle drop of X Gonna Give It To You is great, but like.
Oh yeah, the best part is X riding an ATV to X Gonna Give It To You.
I do think we need more more movies where rappers star in them, and then their singles play while they have action scenes.
Yeah, I mean they're not gonna hire T.I. anymore, so we barely even have any acting rappers right now. It's just
you can really do that with Lil Uzi, or I don't know who would be like the new. New guy to transition
rappers don't even have like hyped singles anymore. Like Lil Durk does fucking auto-tune singles now, so you're not gonna have a fucking like hype ass.
Yeah, they really don't make them like they used to.
I feel like Uzi's maybe one of the only.
I was gonna say, are we? I feel like
that mainline one of these films.
This is the most get off my lawn moment we've ever had on this podcast. Where are the rappers who make songs you could be in movies with?
Where are the rappers that star in movies?
Why
didn't Waka Flocka ever get a fucking straight to DVD movie?
Gucci directed a movie, but it was after he
why
was
didn't
feuding.
Waka Flocka and Gucci ever get a movie where they were like kicking people's asses? That would have been awesome.
Someone mentioned
Not that I can
offhand.
picture Gucci ever kicking anyone's ass, but still.
Someone mentioned offhand in a comment box for Army of the Dead film that it was an obvious ripoff of Dead Heist with E40, Big Daddy Kane, and Bone Crusher, and have now been introduced to a must-watch.
Also, now I'm picturing the three of them in a Humvee kicking people's asses. Another great straight-to-DVD movie that should have happened.
Yeah. I mean, the last essential thing about Cradle of the Grave that must be noted is they crossfade X Gonna Give It To You with Saliva's Click Click Boom during the ATV scene. But thankfully, X Gonna Give It To You is on the soundtrack CD and Click Click Boom is not. They cut that shit.
Making the important choices.
But yeah, Cradle to the Grave is a bit of a pedestrian, but still in the context of 2021.
I mean,
odd,
y'all picked
little...
the tattoo for the DMX Memorial Night. I think you should have picked Exit Wounds, even though Steven Seagal is a problematic person still.
Yeah.
But speaking of problematic people, Rob Schneider was in the film Knockoff.
Oh man. We've all thought about counterfeiting jeans at one time or another, but what about the victims?
The biggest problem in 1998 was counterfeiting jeans.
I watched, per Patrick's mention, the Simpsons episode about counterfeit jeans. And
a car hole.
Notice that the counterfeit jeans operation does disappear at the end of the episode, so I don't see why Knockoff can't be a sequel to it.
I think the best thing about this is when 30,000 people just die in like a half-second like little mini shot.
Thing about Knockoff is it's like one of these, I guess, cartoon action films, if that, not to sound condescending, like the Crank films or Kung Fu Hustle.
I really hope you're not about to talk shit on Crank or Crank 2, because otherwise we're really going to have a problem.
I am not about to talk shit on Crank or Crank 2. However, Knockoff is pretty much the only overtly cartoony action flick in the subgenre I've made off that is remarkably sincere, and that's what I find sort of refreshing about it.
I do like its sincerity. The thing about it is, I just get taken out of it whenever Rob Schneider does anything.
I know.
We get a Rob Schneider joke sex scene in this movie. That sucks. We get Rob Schneider actually, like, real fighting people in this movie, and it sucks.
I know. Okay. This was before he just became Sandler crony and habitual L taker. They were really trying to make Rob Schneider happen. And this is the biggest role I've seen him in. He's just kind of boring in Demolition Man. But in here, he does his best with his pervert routine to ruin the whole thing.
I don't think he actually was supposed... I don't think in the script it says pervert routine. I think that's just what he does.
Yeah.
I don't think there's, parenthetical, do a pervert routine. I think he just, has it on him, as a person. Yeah, everything, there are some great action scenes in this, man. The initial action scene with the bird. Well, actually, I think that was the birds. That's that one is that might be. Why am I not remembering it? That's fucking.
I mean, within the first 5 minutes of the film, there's a shot that travels through a baby doll's cyber eye, following the route of the explosive circuitry inside it.
No, I mean, oh no, the thing I'm thinking of is from the Hard Boiled, which was 2 weeks later. That was the thing in the whole where Tequila does the thing, there are birds flying everywhere. But this is super indebted to that sort of film. I think because it's Sweetheart. So it's got all of that to it. The problem is they try and Americanize it by having Rob Schneider shtick it up all the time.
Yeah, and Van Damme is kind of anonymous in it, but I think that sort of doesn't hinder the film. I wish if Rob was as anonymous as Van Damme is.
I wish Rob wasn't in it. Just have I don't know.
Just put Margin.
Yeah. Anyone else, I don't care. The thing is, because the action scenes are super good. Van Damme is funny when they have to have him do banter. The action scenes are really good. The one on the ship at the end is amazing. The set pieces are super good. And
there's that shot in the end when the final fight sequence finishes, where it's just a bunch of counterfeit jeans flying in the air in slow motion. It's enough to make a grown man cry. But yeah, I don't want to be condescending, but there are some visual choices in this film that no other film has attempted since.
It's so silly. It's such a silly... It's an incredibly silly film. I love it. Man. It's so stupid.
It's stupid, but very balletic.
I know. That's a very good way to put it. It's balletically stupid.
There's
Rob
that
Schneider though. Every time, again, there are certain scenes in this. Again, the words Rob Schneider sex scene should never come out of my mouth more than twice. But there you go. There you have it. And there's also, again, a fight scene where he actually beats people. In a movie like this, he should never punch somebody and ever
He
win.
He picks someone up and slams them, which on a spiritual level, Rob Schneider cannot do.
And this is I don't know if we have any wrestling fans listening to the podcast. That's like Jimmy Hart slamming somebody. That's fucking a manager, fucking body slamming somebody. That should never fucking happen. No, bullshit.
But I think, just to make sure we're talking about Rob a lot, which might put people off from the film.
Yeah, no, he's really
let me assure you
that much. Every part that doesn't involve Rob is awesome. The rest
there is combat where the weapon used is a durian, the spiked custard fruit.
Yes. Yeah, man, I was fucking dying at some of the shit they were able to do in this. It's funny. It's 90 minutes. Anyone else other than if you can just like tune out the Rob Schneider parts of this, it's one of the best action movies I've ever seen. Even with Rob in it, it's really good. So I recommend it. Just pretend Rob's not in it when Rob's in it. Rob's dialogue scenes suck. But whatever. You can tune them out. So
I have to wonder if the film was released later on and didn't have Rob in it.
They put David Spade in it.
But I'm wondering, critics over the past 10 years have gotten way more populist. It's like how the first 4 Fast and Furious films, which are some of the better ones, got poor reviews, and then all the new ones, no matter.
Oh yeah, the Fast and the Furious movies are all of a sudden like universally praised, which is weird because they were always just like Yeah.
There was some turn in the late 2000s, early 2010s, where like Final Destination 5 got a good review.
Like this stuff, we should probably start praising it.
So I seriously think if Knockoff was released in the current critical climate, it would be vindicated.
Oh no question. I think another thing that's kind of helped this like is kind of the last 5+ years of like the Letterboxd era, whereas like you see a lot of support for previously like films that are the reclaiming of like previously unsung films has happened, and a lot of that is like a good bit of genre cinema. So I do agree.
And
with
on that
point.
note, I'm going to say if anybody, like the whole 5 people that are listening to this, watch Crank 2 High Voltage. Is the best action movie of all time, by far.
Watch Crank 1 first though, because it's like an incline.
I mean, Crank 1's
you don't need to, but like.
I mean, Crank 1's awesome. Crank 2 is even better, and Crank 2 has the Mike Patton soundtrack.
Crank 2 does have Ron Jeremy, though. Minor downside.
I forgot about that.
That's a selling point for you.
Depends who you ask.
I forgot about that.
I did forget about the Ron Jeremy scene, actually. But moving on, because I want to cleanse my palate from Rob Schneider. I have not seen the next one on our list. Is Lane BlackTop, picked by consistent winner Tristan. Is a 1971. I don't know the genre. I believe this is noir. The poster.
It's like a. I mean, I'll let the others speak. But
it's really just like a road, like New Hollywood, kind of vibes. I mean, it's a road movie. Probably be the first.
It's sort of like Easy Rider. I mean, not 100%, but contextually, those are comparable films.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway from the movie is it's pretty good, and every scene with a gas station involved in it rules. So
yeah, this is probably like my favorite movie that we've seen. Yeah, just
definitely one of the more reputable ones we've seen.
Yeah, probably. Like Hellman is just an amazing director as well, and I think he rewrote this movie from like it had like a more conventional script, and he like pared it down to like the bare minimum.
Yeah, this is really the bare minimum of dialogue.
Yeah, and like it's like that's what makes the movie, I think, because it's anchored with like the performances of James Taylor, who the only movie he ever made, but he's so good in this. He's like in a really naturalistic way. I have a quote here about him making the movie. He said, in 1970, I made a movie, the only movie I ever made. I've never seen it. It was a harrowing experience for me. Like, yeah, he's just like it's such a naturalistic performance. And the opposite is Warren Oates, who is like trying really hard, both as a character and like as an actor. And Warren Oates is like, possibly like one of the greatest ever, and that juxtaposition is amazing. I don't know. I guess like the only comparison for like James Taylor's performance on this is like Third Cinema, or like directors who just like people who aren't actors, usually in like movie set in rural settings, and like it's weird to say that about like James Taylor, who at this point probably have like several Hollywood mansions or whatever, but like that's what it is. Shot beautifully too.
Yeah, some really good driving sequences too. Also, he does a good job of making driving look fun, but also like not. I don't say not too much fun, but like there's a process to it. Like these guys are very particular about what they do before they even like get behind the wheel. Like the scene where they basically tell Warren Oates is
The one where they steal the plates.
yeah, when they steal the plates. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a great bit.
Probably carries over from the westerns that he did.
Yeah. Yeah. The shooting
is of course
definitely like very closely related.
Yeah. I'm looking. Man, all these new Hollywood. I don't know if Mont Hellman's actually. I don't know. Lane BlackTop is classified as new Hollywood. But just like the Brainscan director, I'm seeing that Mont Hellman had to eventually pivot to directing Silent Night, Deadly Night 3.
You stole my one thing I could say. Thank you, Zach. You stole my one fucking...
Yeah, he did Iguana, which is like another genre movie, I guess. And he did Silent Night, Deadly Night. And both of them are supposed to be like actually really good. So I'm curious.
No, I don't think Silent Night, Deadly Night 3 is supposed to be that good, actually.
Iguana, though.
Oh,
Iguana.
I mean, yeah.
Do you have... I have not seen Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. Do you have any experience with it, Pat?
I mean... They have their the Silent Night, Deadly Night series has its defenders. I've seen the first 4, and I saw them, not gonna lie, in like kind of a marathon, and they got wearying. The second one is mainly footage from the first one, which is like an 80s horror movie trope where they just were lazy about shit. The third one was better than the first 2. I will say that. He kind of so the third one was the best of the series. I will say that. So he did something with it, but I can't say I remember much about it. So he did some, but I can't say I remember details.
Yeah.
Out of the 4 that I saw, I did not see 5. I gave up. I gave up on Murder Santa after 4.
I've heard that it's like an interesting movie, at least. I don't know.
No, he did the best with the machine material he was given, I would say. That he was given like a fucking Hollywood horror script and the best he could with it. And I didn't know that was like an auteur director given that shit at the time.
Yeah.
So
Hellman always had like issues with like funding. Like the shooting, I think, is produced by Nicholson, who's in it. He's like the villain, I guess. And they had like falling out, and they fell out over money and shit. And like with Lane BlackTop, he also had like issues with the producer because the script he shot is really bizarre, I guess. But that movie was kind of a hit, I guess. So it worked out.
This is apropos of nothing, but a movie that I'm going to keep that I keep thinking of putting up that I never remember to is Night of the Iguana.
Let me research that one, or you can.
It's
lay it on me.
Robert, what the fuck is his name? It's like it's an actor who only had one chance at directing. He was like this fucking alcoholic actor who was like an actor.
Oh, John Huston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this like ruined his career, and I've never seen it, and I want to see it, and so I kind of want to keep suggesting that, and I never remember to when you guys do the poll. So. But I've heard it's really good. So, but it like failed the box office. So that's something I keep wanting to suggest.
I've noticed that new Hollywood people having to pivot towards some sort of horror film is almost like a canon unto itself. I haven't seen Schrader's Exorcist film yet, which I've been told isn't...
Was that 2 or 3? Was that 2?
Dominion, like 5 or 6.
Oh, yeah. It was.
I've seen 3 is great. That's not really a hot take anymore. But Exorcist 3 is directed by the author of the books. And it is, in some respects, it's more rewatchable than the first Exorcist. It's a very different vibe.
Niche podcast we've ever done. People like John Huston, fucking Robert Mitchum. What the fuck are you people talking about?
This is for
Exorcist 3 if you have
true film lovers.
Yeah, this is for
Exorcist 3 is good.
it's very. We're going off track because we did not watch Exorcist 3 for the.
No, I don't care if we go off track. It's fine.
For the chat room. But Exorcist 3 is like very literary tone-wise. Like it goes from strange comedy to very ethereal horror.
I mean, I think it's funny how the Exorcist series went where, like, why is the Exorcist a series? First of all, like, it wasn't supposed to be in the beginning. Like, it was supposed to be a single statement, and then became a series because it was commercially successful.
Yeah.
There's such a sometimes funny and interesting row of talent attached to the Exorcist films that I kind of just want to watch the whole series. I know Exorcist 2 is mostly widely disliked, but I've heard people try to reclaim it recently.
I feel like people will reclaim anything, though, just for the sake of reclaiming it.
That's true, but I was told that if you watch Exorcist 2 from the perspective of, like, a giallo, which might just be empty phrasing on the reviewer's behalf, it becomes far more entertaining.
I was told to listen to the second Logic album backwards, it sounds better.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it would. But. Alright. I was way off track. I'm going to DL to Lane BlackTop.
Why am I doing this with my keyboard?
Next one's Detour.
Detour, which I have not seen as well. That was picked by Hector as well. So, Hector?
Yeah, so I picked this because it was just in my watch list, and it was in my watch list because the director of this is Edgar J. Ulmer, who I was watching a lot of like Weimar Germany movies earlier in the year, and he directed most of those are German expressionism.
He has a long filmography. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but he has.
Yeah. Right. So he directed this movie that's kind of like a counterpoint to that, which is People on Sunday, which was written by Billy Wilder, who did The Apartment and all of that. Mm-hmm. And then Ulmer ended up in the U.S. because he was running from the Nazis, like a lot of directors, like Billy Wilder himself. And he ended up making a ton of B movies. And Detour is a poverty row movie, which is like there were all the small studios making movies for no money and releasing them as like B movies. And most of that is really formulaic, I guess, but there's also stuff like this, which is interesting on its own. And this is like a really pure film noir, very depressing, very
it's
very heavy on narration, and with a really like comically evil femme fatale. So it's really good, I think.
I've seen it separate from the Cameron server. And all of the shots of the road are filmed like they're the protagonist's sort of personal hell or personal purgatory. It is, in some senses, a very conventional noir. But first off, the memorable sort of sourness of the characters really distinguishes it. And there's something almost dreamlike of how much of the road scenes are filmed. They really mine sort of the black spaces of the sky and road.
Mm. Yeah, I thought it was very good. I like that it moved. It was super quick. I mean, obviously it's only like 70 minutes or something, right? But it was super, super quick, and it was probably like the darkest B movie, one of the darker B movies I've seen, if you could call it that. It's pretty. Everyone is down horrendously in this movie.
I think the poverty that it was made in poverty really bleeds through. and like not to bring up the same points over and over again, but like you compare it to Billy Wilder's Double Indemnity, which was a movie made for some big studio. I don't remember which one, but like he went out of his way to make of the characters seem like worse people. Like he put a wig on his lead actress to make her less attractive and to make her like seem more like scum. And then Ulmer, who like his old collaborator, just makes
I might be
this.
falling on my ass on this one, but I think the Double Indemnity studio was the one that also screwed over Orson Welles.
Yeah, it was probably.
I wish I could remember which one it was. God
MGM, I guess. Yeah,
but yeah,
it was probably either was it MGM.
It was Universal.
No, Universal I don't think existed yet.
No, shit. But there was definitely, but I feel like it was a certain studio that screwed over a bunch of writers at that time period who were trying to escape. Yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off on that, but I feel like I know the story behind that. And Wilder and Wells were not friends, but yeah.
Yeah, this is a few years before all the HUAC hearings and all of that.
No, and Wells was not really involved with that. I mean, he was and he wasn't. Like, I don't think. I mean, he was interrogated about it, but I don't think he was ever really seen as a threat.
Yeah. No, but where I was going with all of that rant was that you have Double Indemnity, and then you have this, which is like going for like the same thing, but it is so much more vicious and desperate, and like it feels more raw. And I think that's because it was made for no money on 2 weeks with actors that weren't famous, and with this director who was, also doing like 3 movies per year.
Anne Savage, though.
She's
really dominates the film.
She's fucking ridiculous.
If I was to speak like a BuzzFeed journalist, she lives up to her last name in this film. But what I find sort of fascinating about the film is, even for the time at 68 minutes, it's a very short length. And it's not like you feel the length, but it's such a heavy film that it really does feel comparable to longer dramatic pictures that come out now. I mean, at its core, the film doesn't set that many things up, but just how the main character's psychology sort of develops and unravels over the whole 68 minutes. It's a substantial undertaking.
Yeah. Overall, good movie. Really happy that you picked it, Hector. So, we move into the best movie of the bunch here. Are we just gonna?
Detour and Hard Boiled are pretty even for me, but yeah, we can move into Hard Boiled if no one else has things to say on Detour.
Somebody please save the goddamn babies. Because it won't be the
Watch Detour. It's on YouTube, Wikipedia. You can just straight up go on Wikipedia and watch the film for free. Watch Detour, because it's not a film that I see discussed very much outside of some sort of internet echo chambers. But it is definitely worth it.
Yeah, I will absolutely check that out. I feel bad that I didn't check that one out. But yeah, we should move on to the next film on the list.
Definitely the film with the tallest reputation of the bunch.
And definitely the least opinion of police.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like not liking Hard Boiled reveals negative things about you.
I feel like if you don't like Hard Boiled, you can't listen to this podcast anymore.
I feel like that was what we were withholding that statement for. It's correctly applied.
Yeah. I mean, John Woo was a one-of-a-kind director.
True, yeah. Visionary.
Until he went back to the Hong Kong industry in the 2010s, where sort of lack of inspiration and an abundance of CG sort of sucked the air out of things. But so many of John Woo's films are a feat, and Hard Boiled is pretty much the culmination of all that.
Hard Boiled gave birth to the 90s action genre, point blank period.
Yeah, and I'm inferring that it was his crossover film, because he did Hard Target a year after.
Yeah, he went to Hollywood after this, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming...
At least we got Face Off out of it, too, which, you know,
no question.
Podcast patron Saint Nicolas Cage.
Yes. Delivering one of the great performances of the 90s, no question.
Yeah. I mean, but you can't go wrong with A Better Tomorrow or The Killer or Bullet in the Head.
Oh, yeah.
Hard Boiled is like the one. It's like the monolith of that era of Hong Kong action films.
There are at least 5 different extended sequences in this that you can just fucking put in a goddamn frame.
Mm-hmm. And the stuff with the climax in the hospital.
Will somebody please save the fucking babies?
Where he's holding the baby and still taking care of business. That's the kind of thing that the film industry and a lot of patrons of them have lost the ability to appreciate. Like, there's this strain for realism in action films nowadays. And in context of that, Hard Boiled is so refreshing.
The thing about this film that I love is that it's so absurd in the beginning, and the end is so much more absurd. And it still works. Like, the end is this dude, like, hanging babies out a hospital window.
Yeah, the 2 main guys just keep getting more powerful, and everyone else just gets more and more
always so goddamn
inept.
incompetent.
Yeah.
The cops just suck at every goddamn moment. I think John Woo was making a point here that the cops just fucking suck. And hey, you guys just wake up and realize the cops fucking are blow and are not in your fucking best interest at any point whatsoever. They're just like fucking morons.
Yeah, when the
stupid fucking
when the hostage situation happens, they are in the dark, have no idea what's going on, and then display impressive levels of incompetence in their handling of trying to diffuse the conflict. It's remarkably terrible.
It's almost like they should be politicians in America while a pandemic is going on or something. Like, Jesus God. Like, it's just amazing. Like, yeah.
We're getting in the weeds.
Yeah. Are we? Well, are we though?
Maybe or not.
I just, I mean, that scene of the guy bending backwards and lighting a cigarette off the flaming car.
Oh yeah,
is like immortalized online, and that's only halfway through the film, and the film still intensifies from that point.
R.I.P. to Mad Dog.
I quit smoking cigarettes, but I will say that this film would encourage me to smoke cigarettes again, because there are so many good scenes of people smoking cigarettes in this movie.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to my guy. That one of the best kills in the movie.
Oh my god!
Is bro that dies in the library where he has the gun. The gun is in the book.
Yeah.
And you see the way blood splatters in this film is unlike almost any other action movie I can think of.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. The hospital kill where it splatters against the window is unbelievable. And it's like a silent gag. Unbelievable.
This dude has like Chaplin gags where people's brains blow out of their heads.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all visual, like physical comedy.
Nah, this is a fucking masterpiece. 5 stars. If you don't like this movie, you can't listen to the podcast. If you like the cops, you can't listen to this podcast, et cetera, et cetera. Like, fuck you. Like, this is a fucking remarkable piece of cinema. Just everything about it is visually beautiful. Everything about it birthed 90s action cinema. Everything about it birthed all the cliches of 90s action cinema. I think somebody outruns a fireball on this.
Oh, yeah. An explosion, yeah.
It is definitely one of the few action films where all the films surrounding it across the timeline are pre and post hard-boiled.
Yeah, it's it is one of one. No matter how much influence it did have, and John Woo is one of one. Even as his career has kind of went off the deep end, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, the Hong Kong film industry, the mainstream, there's still great independent stuff, isn't quite what it used to be. But
yeah, there was a golden age, and not as much. Although I will say that another thing that, in terms of inspiration, I mean, I definitely think that maybe not this movie in particular, but definitely John Woo as a director had an impact on people like Wong Kar-wai, who's one of my personal favorites, and a movie like Fallen Angels wouldn't exist without like John Woo. So.
Yeah, it's such a monolithic film in terms of its influence and just sort of surface level quality. Like, what do you even say about it? It's hard boiled. Go see it if you haven't, and rewatch it if you have.
I had not seen it. Like, when I saw it, I was not paying attention. When I saw it again, I did. I loved every second of it. Fucking by far my favorite thing that I saw in this project. Fucking nothing but good things to say about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically a perfect action action movie. So we're not gonna say any bad things about this one.
And now a mid-level '90s programmer, Kiss of Death, starring everybody.
You know what I have bad things to say about Richard Price's endings? Hey, Richard Price, learn to write a goddamn ending.
I think this is like, for me, this was a lot like Brainscan, where there's like a part of the movie that's really good, and then there's like a bunch of shit that I don't care for. So I wonder if Zach can find like a quote from the director of this work where he says,
doesn't like the protagonist.
Yeah, where he says like, Nicolas Cage, he was the heart of this movie, but fuck David Caruso.
Damn David.
Hector just like stabbed this 100 times. Like, he just gave this 100 episodes. Like, fuck.
Yeah, keep going, because we can get Michael Rappaport to film a Twitter video about us.
I'm gonna
Boston accent. Say a bunch
I'm gonna at Rappaport in the promo for this episode.
Please don't do that. I do not want Michael Rappaport replies to this. Oh my god, I do not want Michael Rappaport.
I saw on Twitter that people were doing the monthly Lin-Manuel Miranda hate sesh, which is deserved.
It's true.
Rappaport not only recorded a video for his account defending Lin-Manuel Miranda, saying that the haters just hate themselves, he was in people's replies reposting the video.
That guy has way too much time on his hands. It's actually unbelievable.
I mean, fuck Michael Rappaport, fuck Lin-Manuel Miranda, and fuck the ending to this movie. Fuck Richard Price for not knowing how to write an ending. This is not a bad film until the ending. It's not a bad genre film until the ending. Although David Caruso's acting sucks throughout. It really does. His accent sucks.
Yeah.
His accent sucks. His emoting sucks. He's not the right fit for the role. He was put in it because he was supposed to be like a fucking lead guy in 1995. Like, that's why he's in that role.
He's bad in this, but even like Session 9, which was one of his last films, where he was kind of passable, anytime I see his face, I'm just put in the mind of prestige television and not film.
Yeah. That's actually a good way of putting it.
He always drags a film down to the level of Law & Order, or whatever show he was on.
No, this is Law & Order, dude. That's what I feel about this. The ending draws this down to Law & Order.
Yeah.
It makes it like snitching is good. Ultimately, just tell the cops.
Caruso simply does not have the balls, attitude, direction that Cage ponders about throughout the film.
Caruso.
Although we don't want to discount, Nicolas Cage is amazing in this film.
Yeah, dressed in all white like Akiyama.
The first time we see Nicolas Cage in this film, he's like in a wife beater, like bench pressing something.
Yeah, this is right. This is the start of an incredible run for Cage, where he goes Kiss of Death, Leaving Las Vegas, The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off, and then he does Snake Eyes. I mean, this is and 8mm,
Snake Eyes is really
and he
good
does.
till the end.
And he, after Snake Eyes, he does 8mm and Bringing Out the Dead. So this is an incredible 5-year run for Nick Cage.
Right, like 9mm is up to taste.
There's an I mean that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 8 films in a row from Cage, where it's just like heat check.
And I will go to the wall for Bringing Out the Dead. Some people will argue against that. I'll go to the wall for Bringing Out the Dead.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Ving Rhames is fantastic in Bringing Out the Dead.
Unbelievable. He's so funny.
Goodman is incredible in Bringing Out the Dead.
They unfortunately don't give Ving Rhames much to do in Kiss of Death, but he's still handily.
Kiss of Death has a ton of good character actors they don't give much to do.
That was kind of the most interesting thing about the film to me, was just all the people that showed up. I mean,
yeah, right. They just give a bunch to show up, and either they go away or die.
I mean, Stanley Tucci is like
in it for like 80% of the
Tucci's
time.
in there is like Tucci might be the best actor in this. Like he's like the sleazy lawyer. He shows up to do his sleazy lawyer bit a few times.
Yeah. I thought the casting. I mean, it's profoundly watchable, like these '90s programmers were. But I thought the casting...
The ending sucks. The ending sucks.
Most interesting thing besides Cage himself was the strip club that was playing Warp Records music, like Aphex Twin and shit, in Orbital.
What strip club doesn't play Auditor?
Yeah, big fan of everything going on with Cage, and the random the tonal shifts where we go from we're like, oh, the movie's going to be about Caruso's significant other. Oh, nope, never mind, she's dead.
Yeah, we didn't pay for Helen Hunt anymore. She died.
No, that was as abrupt of a death as you could get. Ugh.
I'm told it's based on another Kiss of Death, which I've heard is better.
The 47 one, the movie?
Yeah. But has to be penalized a bit for not having Cage in it.
Right, just really on principle.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Price would... Well, I don't know about Price. Like, that's the thing about Price. Like, he's written screenplays. He's written novels. He always writes shitty endings. That's what frustrates me about him. Even his books, dude. I've read every Richard Price book, and every single one has a shit ending. Every single fucking one.
I like The Wanderers is the one I'm most interested in.
It's a really good book, and it has an okay ending.
So he got worse with time, in that regard. Because it looks like The Wanderers was his first.
No, The Wanderers is recent. Wanderers is recent, dude.
Says 74 on the bibliography. Maybe we're
The Wanderers is recent.
I'm not. I can't litigate this, so I don't know.
I think you need to relook at your. I think you need to look at squeegee your glasses or something. The Wanderers is 20 something.
There's not much litigation. The Wanderers was first published as a book in 1974.
Damn, got him. Got him. I have no dog in this fight, so I'm just ready to talk about murder monkeys at this rate.
All right, yeah, let's talk about the murder monkey while I look at this, because that would be funny reading it, because it kind of makes sense reading the book, but anyway.
So that was Kiss of Death. Watch it if you want.
Let's talk about the murder monkey. Let's talk about the murder monkey.
Yeah, Shakma. He's a woman.
Yeah.
So he kills people. Pretty much. That's it.
He kills people that deserve it. Every single one of them deserved it.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of medical school students who want to play some D&D maze game, and Shakma hates nerds, so he slaughters them all. That's the film.
They also tried to do something genetic to Shakma, didn't they? Like, isn't that why they first tried to...
Yeah, something medical.
Like, yeah, there was some sort of genetic, like, alteration. That's why they were like, try and, like, you know, like, kill Shakma. And then it's like, you didn't kill Shakma. Why didn't you kill Shakma?
It's been driven insane by an experimental drug.
Right, yeah.
In my honest opinion, Shakma is about as middle of the road as a movie about a sexually aroused monkey killing a bunch of college students can be. But I do think that premise in of itself does sort of carry the film to the finish line.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this film has the worst potential here. Okay, if you take this film on its face, it has the worst possible hero you could take. If you take it as the actual hero, it has a great hero. Because the hero is Shakma.
Yeah.
Also, I'm gonna say Zach is right. This film, The Wanderers was published in 1974, and it was republished when I read it. So,
all right, there you go.
The price book.
Look at that. You both can be right.
No, it was republished when I read it. So yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Right.
Anyway. So yeah, Shakma killed everybody and he's right. There's this douchebag medical student who, and Shakma was right to kill everybody. Or tried to.
The romance, I guess, is very, very strange, very disquieting, but luckily Shakma kills them all before.
Well, it doesn't kill everybody, because eventually they kill him.
All but one.
No, but he gets... The guy dies at the end, the hero, I guess.
Yeah, Zach Morris doesn't kill him. Zach Morris kills him. So
it's the sort of film where its production is so humble. I mean, it's just that one setting, and a lot of tiring banter, and then the monkey releases. That much of the time I'm thinking about sort of the production rumors that were swirling around this film, rather than the content. Like, there's so many testimonies about how they got this blatantly dangerous animal to act. And
it's interesting how we don't see any death scenes in this film.
Very suspicious.
Like, if you look at the chats from the movie chat, I'm just bitching about how we don't see anybody actually die.
They do show blood eventually, but most of the monkey footage is just Shakma banging against.
You just hear Shakma shriek, and then you see a dead body. I'm just like bitching, like, why don't we see King Monkey kill anybody?
I mean,
like, what is this bitch shit? But
I realized that any group of people would need to be able to film this movie is a highly dangerous monkey. I mean, everything else, it's one setting. Fairly cheap-looking blood and a lot of dialogue.
They certainly had a lot of dialogue. It wasn't very good.
I was thinking, if this movie took place at a sleepaway camp instead of just a kind of anonymous med school building, the movie would be improved tenfold. I mean, you already have this horny monkey running around killing people.
Why do you know he's horny, though? He just wants to kill people. Why did you even say he was horny? He's not horny.
Patrick is upset that you're ascribing horniness to this monkey.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know about him being horny. I didn't get that vibe.
He just wants to kill.
I don't know, maybe he's just well hung naturally. That was why I drew that conclusion.
Again, we go back to the monkey dick.
Hey,
Yeah, we're we're ranking all the dicks of all the characters in every movie at the end.
I did appreciate the attention to detail of having the monkey be overpowered by its urge to attack its own reflection in the mirror.
what the fuck?
Yeah, the
This is
ending
how we
gets...
get the new. This is how we get the new listeners, huh? This is how we get the new listener.
I don't know. I mean, what more do we have to say about Shakma? It's about a monkey that kills people.
Horny monkey kills people.
Really great trailer as well.
Excellent radio, as always. Excellent radio. Horny monkey kills people. All right, moving on.
I feel like there's been some fatigue, but Nemesis, maybe
this one. I'm gonna turn my mic.
Unfortunately, the three of us
take
see
Nemesis. I've seen.
I saw
Nemesis.
I've seen Nemesis.
I saw it that night.
Nemesis is probably Albert Pune's best film. Director of the aforementioned Arcade, but a far more professional-looking watch, though. As always with Albert Pune, you have to give it some leeway. What's interesting about the film is he's all in on trying to build sort of the tech-noir cyberpunk world, despite the fact that he doesn't really do much with the environment for budgetary reasons.
Yeah, a lot of this is in a forest, I think.
Yeah, it's like a chase film, which Pune does a lot to save money and sort of add natural tension.
Yeah, this is like this was made 8 years too soon, because if it was made in 2000, they could have used Sandstorm, like they should have.
I concur. There's a lot of big guns. There's a lot of good action, and there's just now this movie, maybe unlike Shakma, has legitimate horniness going on. That I will give this movie that.
Yeah.
There's the scene where they're spying on the protagonist out the window. That definitely has, levels to that.
It's funny. It seems like it'd be his most commercial film, but except for all the half-naked people standing around.
Right. Just chilling.
There's also some great CG in this when they get on the plane and they burn away some robot's skin, and it's just like a metal skeleton fighting the main guy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stop motion too. I think it's computer enhanced stop motion.
Uh-huh.
And but it is computer enhanced. And if you're on the right wavelength, it's quite entertaining to watch what might be the cheapest cyberpunk action film out there. I was very disheartened. Someone who's not Albert Pune made a 5th Nemesis movie, and it just looks like a YouTube video.
Damn.
The B-movie craft has truly been replaced by something far more insidious.
Truly. Yeah, video essay is the new B movie. Yeah, Nemesis is a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it.
I'm told.
It feels like, I feel like if it came out in the late 90s, it would have actually had maybe with a production a little bit higher of a production value. It would have. I feel like it would have been done a little better commercially.
Yeah, it's people sort of paint it as being ahead of its time. I'm not sure how true that is, but I can sort of see with stuff like The Matrix and how elaborate the action sequences are in Nemesis. I can sort of see a thorough line from one to the other.
So Nemesis, cop, good guy, or no? In the beginning, where we really get the procedural stuff.
Yeah.
But as it goes on, it morphs.
It just gets rid of all of that.
Yeah.
And at the end, I wasn't really sure I think I lost track of the plot at some point.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't matter after like 2/3 of the way through, in my opinion.
Much
But
like Arcade, I assume. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, Albert.
Yeah.
All of the narratives in Albert Pune stuff is kind of breathlessly delivered, which makes his B-movie craft remarkably easy to watch. I know Doll Man has made the ballot a couple times, which is about a 13-inch.
Oh, he's Doll Man? Oh,
yeah.
Shit. I did not know he was Doll Man. That makes sense.
Yeah,
So-
I think I enjoy the really hilarious like procedural bits in the beginning that are just entirely stripped when toward the end of the movie, he sees the light, who the real evil is.
Yeah.
So, there's some good stuff in the movie.
Yeah, more than any other Pune film I've seen, it actually does deliver on a baseline endearing level of craft when it comes to the action scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Just avoid the sequels. 2 really puts the whole chase movie structure to account for low budget. Really pushes that about as far as it can go. It's mostly just a brand new character running around an Arizona desert.
Yeah, I will avoid it per recommendation.
I'm probably gonna watch it at some point.
The sequel?
I think it's funny how Kel was like, I want to avoid it, and Hector's like, yeah, I'm on that.
I'm on that. Yeah, just because you said
I
it,
feel like
I'm on it.
for Christmas episode, we got to do Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 through 5. All of us. That's what we got to do. Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 through 5.
In the chamber, just marathon it.
I mean, we don't really have to
5
do
filler.
1 and 2 because 2 is just mostly just clips from 1 as flashbacks, which I didn't know you could do that, but apparently, like in the 80s, you could just like have kids like look at things and then have them be flashbacks in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, there are no rules in cinema, so you can, that was the commentary that was being pushed forward with
And there
those
are no
sequences.
rules in the city, especially in New Jack City.
Oh, are we
That was a
skipping?
transition.
Good transition, but are we skipping a few?
Oh wait, wasn't that the last one? I'm sorry, did I skip a
There's
bunch?
Wishmaster and Walker.
Oh, I
but-
skipped Wishmaster? Oh my god, that was not my wish. I'm dead. That was not my wish. Shit. I forgot about Walker too. But yeah, so Wishmaster. So Wishmaster was what happens when Freddy Krueger needs another career.
Yeah. Well, it becomes very apparent. The sort of the charm of Wishmaster is it's very apparent that the film is a respected special effects artist cashing in every favor he's earned.
Yeah, but only at the beginning and end. The middle is just some boring exposition shit. That's the problem.
It's pretty bad, but not Brainscan tier.
No, absolutely not. No. The beginning and end are actually good. Well, I haven't seen the beginning. I never saw the beginning because I came in late. I'm told the first 10 minutes are very good.
Yeah, they were.
First 10 minutes are very good. I mean, it takes place centuries before, so it's more like...
So I'm assuming the Wishmaster's in like 1400s, like granting wishes. I'm making air quotes here. And then like killing people. And then at the end, he does the same thing to like teenagers and then kills them in gruesome ways. But yeah, like the last 30 minutes of this film are outstanding, like just dumb horror bullshit, like just really good, like gruesome.
Like bringing a statue of an ancient Iranian god to life in order to murder people. My favorite kill, though, was the one that actually takes out the director of the film, which was the piano wires coming to life.
Oh yeah, no, that was awesome, and I'm glad that he like was a good enough sport to do that to himself. He knew what the best kill was. That was awesome. Yeah, no, like It's just the middle is tedious. They had nothing to fill in between the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
And apparently there were like 5 of these.
Yeah, the third directed by Chris Angel.
Don't tell our producer.
Yeah, don't. He might have a.
He doesn't like this. He does not like the Mind Freak.
No, he might have a panic attack on air. We don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of little horror Easter eggs I can prod out of Wishmaster, but I think we can just.
But yeah, it's actually like I enjoyed most of what I saw. But I just thought the second act was kind of slow, but the third act was awesome. Like all the kills were great. Like I thought like Robert England, whatever the fuck, had a lot of fun with it. So
it's kind of like a resume for Robert Kurtzman, who's the director, and is, as I mentioned, a huge deal in horror effects because he goes absolutely insane with the different creature effects in this film.
Yeah, that does make sense with the way they play out. So
yeah, it looks like when you look at what movies he's been on in terms of like effects and makeup and stuff, he's like been on a ton of renowned and reclaimed like horror classics.
He's still going. I mean, he started with Day of the Dead, which is a high watermark.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed this overall. Like I got a little bored in the second act, but the end paid off like a motherfucker. So I do recommend this. Like it gets a little boring, but trust that if you watch, you will get your money's worth.
Yeah, I think there were some cool wishes.
Said, did this turn into a giallo at one point where this one chick just like has a death scene where it's just, like, against like a blood red like fucking background, and so now we're gonna go into the Alex Cox Walker, which I did not have the chance to see, unfortunately, which is one of the ones I'm really sad that I did not have a chance to see. But this was from Razumov, who is not with us today. But
the film that cost Alex Cox his studio director gig.
Which is weird, because he seemed to be trying to cost himself that every time he made a fucking movie.
Yeah. I mean, he approached Universal with wanting to make a film about William Walker. And granted, he goes above and beyond in terms of making it a ridiculously on-the-nose satire.
I mean, I was actually talking to Caleb about this before we went on air, about how I thought Sid and Nancy was kind of like a trash movie that fetishized a trash person.
Yeah, I haven't seen Sid and Nancy. It doesn't particularly interest me.
Yeah, it's not particularly interesting.
But Alex Cox is much more in his bag when taking down a figure like William Walker.
It sounded super interesting. I was really into it, and I didn't get a chance to see it, unfortunately, due to circumstances. But so
it features a unhinged, wonderful Ed Harris.
Well, that is the best kind of Ed Harris. That was the only thing good about Westworld, first of all.
Yeah, and Ed Harris was incredibly passionate about
very fuck Westworld. I'm very on topic about saying that fuck Westworld. The only good thing about Westworld is Ed Harris. So only good thing about Forrest Gump was Ed Harris.
Yeah,
he was excellent in this movie. Yeah, there is a just remarkable level of unsubtlety, the opposite of subtlety. But
it's very blunt.
It's played for laughs most of the time, so I think it gets away with it.
It's a very angry film, but it dials up the absurdity enough to keep it from just being sort of preachy.
the scene where he like turns on all his advisors at the lunch table or whatever is definitely.
I feel like that's the best mode for him, though. I feel like that's why his character in Westworld worked. I feel like that's why his character in Forrest Gump worked. I feel like that's why his general mode works.
Yeah. I think what really sells the film, not to spoil too much, because this film is pretty hard to find. I mean, everything's on the Pirate Bay, but this film's pretty hard to find. So I'm imagining a lot of people maybe haven't seen it. Two of the things that really sell the film is there's a bunch of hilarious anachronisms in the film that sort of course, serve a broader metaphor that's made very obvious by the closing credits.
Mm.
But the film sort of gradually introduces things like a Newsweek magazine, and I won't spoil some of the more insane ones that really sort of distinguish the film as being one of one. And I think what really sells the film is just Ed Harris delivering all of these hollow monologues, deadpan, about bringing democracy to Nicaragua, while the entire film just descends into hell.
Yeah, like after he tries to after he almost gets assassinated, and he's saved by his like book or something where he's saved, and he decrees it that he was only saved because it's his destiny to bring democracy to this backwater nation that wouldn't exist otherwise without him, essentially. So they're definitely dialing it up.
Yeah, I mean the whole film's just an absurd decline to hell.
Much like America.
Yeah, Alex Cox would agree. And it pretty much destroyed its career, but of course that gives
much like America
gives its own voyeuristic appeal to watching the film.
Yeah,
and it's pretty hilarious.
I wonder if this is just going to be destined to live in like small corners of the internet, which it probably will be.
I can see
it took Brian
Netflix
finding
putting
it
this
for
on.
me, so that probably means it will. So.
Yeah, I mean, Universal were furious about the film, and with the exception of a Criterion release that's over 10 years old.
Surprised they actually did it, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's check.
It's not really a publicly available film otherwise. The only way to see it, besides downloading it, is to purchase it from Criterion's website. That's how much Universal hated the thing. Hopefully Universal doesn't do their own Space Jam equivalent, and we see William Walker in the audience.
Yeah, where's William Walker in Space Jam: A New Hope or whatever? Like,
I think the main tell of what type of person Alex Cox is that he got Joe Strummer to do the soundtrack for this, which must have costed, I don't know, like that definitely hit the budget of this movie, and like the soundtrack is like pretty nondescript, I would say, like it's just there.
Yeah, although the drum machine programming is at least on rhythm as opposed to the Clash's Cut the Crap.
Well,
there is, yeah,
this time.
The score for this movie is like I always thought to be like intentionally ridiculous. Like it's just all over the place, and like just.
I mean, every post
there's no cohesion.
And like release should be the Clash's Cut the Crap or a Pop Smoke fucking like with featuring Chris Brown. Like that should be every like.
They're gonna put the Pop Smoke songs that were mixed in an attic for this new album that just dropped on over the Walker score.
That new quote unquote new Pop Smoke album is on principle a 1 out of 5, by the way.
It's just literally the most like I haven't heard an album like cut and pasted like that since like the third Triple X album after he died.
Ja on drums.
It was unbelievable that we got this album.
You listen to this on YouTube. Instead, you get Just Pop Smoke featuring Extentacion and Lil Peep.
Right, but all
and Chris Brown.
All years after death, when they're just we found these vocals in a closet somewhere. Let's put them out, guys.
So, Alex Cox is exceedingly Gen Xer or older, sort of punk ideals, which can be a bit grating, but Walker, alongside Repo Man, of course, are some of the more interesting films he's done, and I can promise you that Walker is a comedy that is incomparable to any other.
I thought Repo Man was cool, but it was a little like incongruous. I mean, I probably need to watch it again. I saw it like 15 years ago. I probably need to watch it again. I thought it was a little incongruous. Like, I don't really remember it like that.
I reach for Walker more because I actually think the final segment, the segment in the film where everything is fully gone to apocalyptic shit, and
you mean reality?
Yeah. I think that's probably the most artful filmmaking that he's done the last 20 to 30 minutes of the film. So it's the one I reach for it more than even Repo Man. If you can engage with it on your own terms, it's a highly interesting watch.
Yeah, I feel like it's something that would improve with repeated viewings as well. It was kind of disorienting the first time, but it is quite funny.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I'll check for it. Repo Man I have not seen in 15 years. It felt incongruous from what I remember, but I will check for it again. So, my mistakes on memory. But all right, moving on with the list. Since last time I tried to move on with the list, I was wrong.
But this time we've hit it. Probably the most well-known movie. One of the two most well-known movies.
Right, the most referenced movie for sure.
Yeah.
Not least of which by Chris Rock himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, going into this movie, thought this was a prestige movie. It is in fact not a prestige movie. It's not great. New Jack City. Wesley Snipes wears a lot of hats and outfits in this film.
And Wesley Snipes' turtlenecks are wonderful, and I mean that sincerely. The turtlenecks with the beret and sunglasses is just a look. It's a look that very few people that aren't Wesley Snipes will be able to pull off. But he does. Also, Hector, I want to ask you: so New Jack City is directed by Mario Van Peebles, who I want to pick your brain because you mentioned this many times during our rewatch here. You were really enjoying Mario Van Peebles giving himself the role that he did. So what was so great about it?
Yeah, I mean, so Mario Van Peebles plays like the boss of this police task force, I guess, and he's just like, Ice-T is supposed to be like this rock cop who doesn't play by the rules and all of that, and Mario Van Peebles just like has to calm him down every time, and he has to be the voice of reason. And given like the postscript and like the whole like message of the movie, I thought that was like really, I maybe that was like the most entertaining thing from the movie to me, which says more about me than anything. But I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, it is. The postscript is like, hey, we're just gonna feed you guys more of this. It was like
Yeah,
I forgot that it was there.
Yeah, it's silly. This movie is silly, feeding you something thinks it's conscious, but is ultimately very silly. That's what I get out of this.
Yeah, I do want to say, because I think when people shoot this, like,
and yeah, it sounds bad when I say it, and it's gonna come back and bite me in the ass. But yeah,
yeah, I like the way it's shot. Like, I really appreciate that it's ambitious like that. Like, it has Dutch angles, and like the cutting is like very distinct, and it's all for like this stylized like vision of the world, which is funny because like the message of the movie seems to like run counter to it. Like,
I will
like their directing is glorifying Nino Brown, and like the screenplay hates Nino Brown. So that's also, I don't know what that's about.
The dialogue is very silly, but I do think there are some striking shots in it. Ultimately, the message is like, I don't know. The dialogue is clumsily written, but I think the message is strong in a way. I don't know. Like, it's compromised. I think it had to be compromised to get made. A little bit.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think there are some undeniable scenes in it. You know, the scene, which is of course, which is now the GIF of with Wesley Snipes, killing his friend with a tear running down his cheek. Obviously, that's immortalized
for sure. Like,
yeah.
It's resonant. Yeah,
yeah,
like, it's
immortalized.
on
the internet, and there are obviously. I mean, this was a extremely referenced movie in rap music, and has been for a while. You know, less so probably these days, but it's had a long shelf life of being referenced in rap music. Yeah, so there, I mean, even the opening, I really like the bit where Chris Rock is getting chased down by Ice-T, and they're going through different parts of the city, and down the stairs.
Like, I feel like that didn't actually hit now for us watching it like it did then. Like, I'm kind of thinking about that now and being like, that probably hit real different then. Like, I was 5 years old then. I didn't see that now. Like, you weren't born then. Like, right. I mean, I'm being real condescending saying that now to y'all then. Like, but that had to be saying something different than just like put that on screen to people.
Yeah. Well, it came out the same year as Boys in the Hood, so there was definitely a. I feel like that in those two films being commercially successful, definitely Boys in the Hood. I believe this film was commercially successful, but I'm not sure.
It was. I think it was. I think
okay.
It was, like, just getting it like in like a whole, like, it was commercially distributed. It was commercially successful. Yeah, I believe it was. So
I imagine that was big for. I mean, at the time, 91, you weren't seeing a lot of films with predominantly black casts and not portraying. I mean, in some cases, Boys in the Hood, different movie, but putting like humanity in settings that
they're still telling these stories. Like, they're just telling these stories that weren't being told. Period. So
right, and then and like I said, there's like an empathy to it as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, it seems corny to us now, but this wasn't being said then.
Yeah, you can't take away from it as a cultural fixture.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's I think it's like an enjoyable movie, but I'm not, I probably wouldn't reach for it.
I mean, we just look at like Wesley Snipes wearing like a fucking Benetton like fucking blanket on his head, and like it looks stupid, but it does. But there's more to the movie than that.
Yeah, and there's an unbridled level of self-assuredness and cool with Wesley Snipes in this movie that makes it really attractive and really like magnetizing, I think. So that's pretty much my thoughts on it.
I heard Chris Rock saying this is some New Jack City shit, and the trailer for his Saw film was not very well received.
I did not know that happened. Holy shit.
Oh my gosh.
I've heard he's regressed a bit as a dramatic actor, but I'm not sure
I've
how
heard
he
that
is in
Saw
New Jack.
movie was supposed to be trash. I know that Saw movie was received as trash. I know that much.
Yeah.
I wonder if we get more movies from the Book of Saw.
That was one of the most laughable attempts I've seen recently of trying to soft reboot an IP.
Yeah, I mean Saw, but it's respectable. It's like prestige Saw. It's a very laughable concept.
Saw. Prestige. Oh my god. Oh, that's sadder than the coronavirus. Oh my god. Oh, fuck.
New Jack City from the Book of Saw.
From the Book of Saw. Oh man. Are there titles you guys are hoping end up being on the on the circuit?
Well, I mean, I know our producer hopes that Godzilla versus whatever the fuck ends up there sometimes. Also, VeggieTales.
Mm.
I really wanted to watch the Hip Hop Witch.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out to the Hood Pope. The Hip Hop Witch. I'm sorry, not the Hood Pope. The Hood Pope would be who's the Hood Pope?
Yeah, we need to.
There is a mixtape with the Hood Pope that has happened. That was Bishop Lamont, I believe, was the Hood Pope.
A$AP Ferg called himself the Hood Pope.
Yeah,
he did.
So.
But yeah, I know that our producer hopes that we get some VeggieTales on movie night. And also,
I've got a few in the chamber.
I'm hoping for Freddy. I'm always hoping for Freddy.
Yeah. On the topic of Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, just reusing footage. There's this Taiwanese director who worked in the Hong Kong film industry called Kevin Chu, who made a bunch of sort of triad films that would reuse footage and have these sort of dissonant genre shifts because of it, because he'd reuse clips of a horror film in his martial arts film and stuff like that. And his wildest film, I pitched it before, but it doesn't really have name recognition, so that sort of hurts it winning the ballot. But I'm polling for a film of his called Fantasy Mission Force, which is kind of a Dirty Dozen knockoff, but one that shifts genres practically every 10 minutes, and is one of the wilder semi-exploitation films I've seen.
I mean, I put both Spring Breakers and Killer Season out there recently, both some of my favorite films for different reasons, and they'd be great to riff on. Spring Breakers, I think, is a genuinely great film. Killer Season, I think, is not a genuinely great film, but would be fun to just watch. So, shout out to Killer Season, no homo. But
definitely shout out to Killer Season. I was gonna say for each of you, because one thing, and it's also sort of for the audience, we've discussed in the past of wanting to do, we want to do more of like film content on the show every now and then, and more of like general film episodes and stuff. And we were thinking of like directors to to double bill, basically like Grindhouse style, as like to do an episode on. And what would be like a couple that each of you would be interested in hearing or being on yourself?
I think he's got too many movies, but I think a whole Pune cast, a whole podcast episode about Albert Pune would be worthwhile.
Is there After hearing about the previous thing that you discussed, I'd actually be down for some Pune. Pune me up.
Pune me up, Scotty.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm down for some alt. Like, I've suggested Altman before, although I know it's kind of long-winded. But I've suggested Altman. Like, but I don't know what we would pick. But I suggested Altman. So
yeah, I mean, there's a ton of like. I'm sure there's a.
I suggested McCabe and Mrs. Miller. I've suggested California Split. I've suggested a bunch of Altman. So I've suggested Altman, but
sure, he's really emphasizing that he suggested Altman.
I have said that like 7 times in the past 30 seconds.
30 seconds are Altman.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah, it would be. I very much love Robert Altman's film. I would be down, but we'll see.
The other one is, I don't know if any of you have seen films from Seijun Suzuki.
Yeah.
I figured Hector might have. He was sort of like Alex Cox. He had plenty sort of movies that were sort of a revolt against the studio system, but more so stylistically.
Yeah, that Nikatsu era from like the 60s, where they had all these directors working for them, and none of them were making them any money. But that era I find really interesting to read about. So
yeah,
it will definitely be an interesting podcast.
So I don't know if anyone here has seen Branded to Kill, but from a style standpoint.
Oh, there's one other dude. Hang on 1 second. Keep talking. I'm gonna look up this one guy. 1 second.
I mean, it's a very visual. Branded to Kill has these sort of indelible images that I can't really put into words, but probably the greatest endorsement I can give is that it has been cited as an influence by Jarmusch, John Woo, Tarantino, and Chan-wook Park.
That's a hell of a floor to be
endorsed by
citing personally impacted
this
by
guy,
your film.
Tom Schiller. I looked up. Somebody recommended him on RYM. He's been like lost by everybody, apparently, and so yeah, I've been trying to find his films. They're very hard to find. Tom Schiller, and he's a independent filmmaker. So Hector, you got anybody real quick?
Yeah, it would be Kiyoshi Kurosawa or Tobe Hooper, because they're
Hooper for sure. Yeah,
directors that I find like really thematically relevant to like the
I love
films
Tobe Hooper. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so Kiyoshi Kurosawa also amazing director, really underseen. I think I already name dropped him once in this podcast, but I think more people should see him.
Oh yeah, I love Charisma, the one about the mystery tree.
The tree, yeah, great movie. Koi Yakuso.
Of course, Cure and Pulse are instant classics.
Yeah, everyone should see Pulse, definitely, I think.
All right, Hector, Zach, it's been wonderful having you. Caleb, always, good having you as my co-host, because you're here. You have to be whether or not you like it.
Yeah.
And, we are living off borrowed time. Until next time, the balcony is closed.
It ain't gonna never stop. 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 It ain't gonna never stop.
Time will tell. Time is yet to be conquered by man. But when the time is right, perhaps the greatest revelation of all time will dawn upon us.